Hey everyone, welcome back to Free Space News. So before I get into today's video, I just want to get into a quick update about my channel. So as you probably have noticed, I haven't uploaded in a while, and that's just because honestly I just wanted to kind of enjoy the end of my break. But now that my break's basically over, I would like to get back to uploading regularly. I think I initially said on Facebook that in somebody's comments that I was gonna try and upload daily and just really try and make this a huge part of my life. I would still like to upload quite frequently and definitely make this an important part of my life, but I think daily uploads are probably a bit too ambitious. Instead, I think I'm going to go with bi-weekly, tri-weekly uploads, just a few times a week, and that's just because college is really a lot of work, and that's goal number one. With that update, let's get into today's video. So today I'm going to be focusing on an article that came out at the end of 2019, but I think this is still relevant because it talks about a trend that 2018 kind of started to set. So the article talks about how there was a dramatic increase in carbon emissions. So yeah, the article talks about how there was a dramatic increase in carbon emissions in 2018. It says, quote, "No matter that coal-fired plants went out of business in record numbers, or that Americans nearly doubled their purchases of electric cars, the U.S. increased its carbon emissions in 2018, and a large part of the reason was one normally cited as a bonus: substantial economic growth. A booming American economy meant increased industrial production, more truck and air travel, and more offices and other workplaces to heat, all combining, along with other factors, to create the second largest annual increase in greenhouse gas emissions in more than 2 decades, according to new estimates from the Rhodium Group." Now, they had a really interesting chart in the article that I want to take a look at here. So this is from Rhodium U.S. Climate Service, and the title is "U.S. Estimated Carbon Emissions Jumped Dramatically in 2018. International agreements reached in Copenhagen and Paris call for sharp greenhouse gas reductions, which the U.S. is struggling to meet." And you see the green line there is the U.S. energy-related CO2 emissions, and then the blue lines and those two markers down there represent the Copenhagen Accord target and the Paris Accord target. And if you look at the past, if you go to about 2008-2009, you'll see that there's a sharp decline in emissions right around the time when Obama was in office, and then some steady increases followed by another few decreases. But if you look before that, it was steadily increasing, and then if you look at 2018, you do see a sharp increase. Now, this isn't really that surprising given Trump's attitude towards climate change. He's called it a Chinese hoax. He said that the Paris Agreement, when he was running for president, he said that the Paris Agreement should be ripped up, that the United States shouldn't be a part of that, and then in 2017 he announced that in fact that he's going to be pulling the United States out of the Paris Agreement. Now, he cited economic reasons as a reason for doing that. It's funny, he said in his speech when he pulled out that he was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris, and then the mayor of Pittsburgh came out in favor of staying in the Paris Climate Agreement, which I thought was pretty funny. But what's important to remember with the Paris Agreement is that there is no enforcement mechanism. So the United States staying in the Paris Agreement doesn't actually have any hard consequences in terms of limiting the United States energy production, because we could just choose to not follow the standards of it and that's likely what Donald Trump would want to do anyway, since he doesn't seem to be in favor of reducing emissions. So there's really not a great reason to pull out of the Paris Agreement, although with a future administration, it's not very likely that we could renegotiate ourselves into the Paris Agreement. It's definitely possible that we could at least meet the standards, if not try and meet even more ambitious standards. Now, I think it's important to place an article like this in context, and what I mean by that is let's look at how important it is that we actually address carbon emissions and climate change, because there's going to be some serious consequences if we don't. So this is from a New York Post article. So they say, quote, "Earth is on track to face devastating consequences of climate change, extreme drought, food shortages, and deadly flooding, unless there's an unprecedented effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, a new United Nations report warns. The planet's surface is already warmed by 1 degree Celsius, 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, and could see catastrophic 1.5 degrees Celsius, or 2 degrees Fahrenheit, between 2030 and 2052, scientists say. This is concerning So a climate scientist quoted in the article says, "This is concerning because we know that there are so many more problems if we exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming, including more heat waves and hot summers, greater sea level rise, and for many parts of the world, worse droughts and rainfall extremes." The scientist's name is Andrew King, and he's from the University of Melbourne. So my college has the debating society called the Phil, and they often have guest speakers that go there. And they recently, a couple months ago, they had Samantha Power, who, if you don't know, is the former U.S. ambassador to the UN. And she was there, and she was asked about all these agreements that she was involved with negotiating. And one of them was the U.S. involvement in the Paris Accords. And she said that one of the consequences of, Trump's presidency is that, I mean, if you look at the Iran deal, for example, if you look at the Cuban embargo, Trump is basically, taking progress on some of those fronts and reversing that progress. I mean, he's pulled out of the Iran deal, essentially. But you can always negotiate those again, and you can basically pick up where you left off with some of those agreements once you have a different president in office. The reason why the Paris Accord is different is because you're never going to get back those 4 to 8 years that Trump has decided to completely disregard any kind of emissions cuts that the UN and a bunch of other and climate scientists are saying that we need to go along with, or else we're going to face devastating consequences. So that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, comment, share your opinions in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.